I never ever remember where it is in the Bible until I need to use it. Deuteronomy 1 and verse 6. I don't know if it's the media. Media, can you put it up for us all to read together? From verse 6 to 8. It's not a problem. I'm sure I can. The Lord our God spake unto us in Horeb, saying, Ye have dwelt long enough in this mount. Ye have dwelt long enough in this mount. Turn you, do something different. Turn you and take your journey and go to the mount of the Amorites. If you recall, the Amorites were supposed to be the enemies of the children of Israel, isn't it? Maybe out of fear, maybe out of procrastination, maybe out of uncertainty. Maybe out of uncertainty, the Israelites kept around the Mount of Horeb because that was their safe place. But God, who is no respecter of persons, no respecter of mountains, no respecter of enemies, said to them, Turn you and take your journey and go to that place you are afraid of, to the mount of the Amorites, and unto all the places nigh thereunto, all the nearby places in the plain, in the hills, and in the vale, and in the south. That is total occupation. And by the seaside, to the land of the Canaanites, and unto Lebanon, and unto the great river, the Euphrates. Behold, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give unto them and to their seed after them. Men of God, whatever it is you do today is your Mount Horeb. Whatever business, whatever career, whatever engages you, it's not a bad thing. It's just that there is a possibility that thing could be better. There's a possibility. God has actually, it's not there's a possibility. God has actually ordained that that engagement, that career, that business be bigger. So today, our theme for this discussion this morning, which is a business-related discussion, is challenging your unknown future by the hand of a known God. Challenging your unknown future by the hand of a known God. No, I didn't come with slides. But if you want the slides, I can send you the slides. You can share it with your group after. But I didn't come with slides. I want us to engage. You know, there's a tendency that when you bring slides, people leave the focus. I do fantastic slides. You know, I don't even send people on errand to do slides for me. I'm one of those who can do slides, beautiful slides. Because almost every week I'm doing a presentation, mostly a business presentation. And, you know, AI has made all these things look like... so you need to keep up. So there's something God has ordained in your business life, in your career life, to make you different. To make you and your children outstanding. The mistake we make is that we see our careers and our businesses as our source of sustenance. If your business and your career is not big enough for your children and children's children to keep drawing from it, whether or not they work in it, you know, the mistake some of us make is to go and bring unqualified children to work and destroy a business that we have put all we have to building. But your children can always draw from your business. And until that business reaches that scale, it is not the way God intended it to be. Praise God. So, we are challenging an unknown future in business by laying hold of the word and the dictates of God, of a known God, of a God that never fails, of a God that says, you have encamped around this mountain for too long. You have encamped in this valley for too long. You have encamped in this one-room business for too long. It is time for you to go forward. He didn't just say go forward. He said go to the mount of your enemies, of your competitors, of those you are afraid of those who are the market leaders where you are. Go there. Go and demonstrate that there's a God behind you, a God that backs you up. I'm not afraid of any circumstance. I left school at 20 and decided that when I'm 40, I will no longer be working for anyone. And then on my 39th birthday, my wife reminded me, you've always been saying you will soon move on. And the things you have started doing, don't they look like they're enough to carry you forward? So as I got back to the office the following, it was an Easter holiday. And immediately after the Easter holiday, there was going to be an executive management meeting in Lagos. So as I flew into Lagos for that meeting, before going into the meeting, I knew my supervising director. I was a deputy general manager in a bank. Some of you would have heard of a bank called Sterling Bank, where those who put that bank together, bringing 5 banks together and merging them together, long time ago. So I went to my supervising director's office. I knew he wouldn't come early, so I dropped my resignation with his secretary and then went for the meeting. So the meeting progressed beautifully. And of course, we took tea break. That's when the executive director now decided, let him touch at his office and see if there's anything urgent to treat. And he goes there, and his secretary, the first thing she hands him is Samuel's resignation. So he comes back, and we are discussing something strategic. And I practically took over that discussion. You would think that I'm the MD, the way I was passionate about that discussion. So as I was going on about this discussion, my MD stops me. Sam, we're going to set up a tax team on this matter, and you're going to be in charge. You're probably going to have to come and stay in Lagos for like 2 months and all that. He goes on and on. He has no idea what is going on. And the number 2 guy, who was my supervising director, turns around and says, which Sam? In the open denture there, he said, which Sam? This one that just resigned this morning. So I said, gentlemen, yes, I gave notice of resignation, and I plan to work to the last minute. So if the task is something that can be concluded between now and May 15th, this was the first week of April, and May 15th was my exit date, I'll run it. Really? I said yes. They still went ahead and handled it, and it was a thorough success. You would think that I was working for an organization that I planned to work for another 20 years. It didn't go that way. I had to go. And I have been at it for 17 years now, since I left paid employment, doing the same thing. And I'm speaking to you from an experience, an encounter I've had this year, between last year and this year. In 17 years, I've done a lot of big things, handled a lot of big transactions. But to be honest with you, until I found God differently. You know, you can be a pastor, you can be any other thing until you have the revelation and the encounter that is meant to transform you, nothing changes. You know that. It's not by title. I've been a pastor for 15 years now. It's not by title. But I had that encounter and something transformed. What I have done in business between last year and now is more than what I've done in the preceding 15 years. Maybe by a multiple of times 5 or times 10. I've not sat down to calculate it. Until you lay hold on the word of God concerning what is important to you, the backing of God doesn't come. If my people that are called by my name will humble themselves, pray, turn away from their wickedness, I, the Lord, will hear them, and I'll heal their land. There's nothing wrong with the land of Nigeria. What is missing is that you have not humbled yourself to engage with a known God. And I find out that every time I engage with this known God, I have testimonies to show. In 2018, I said I was going to bring 1,000 souls to church. I did not achieve it because I was working in the energy of the flesh. Every morning, when I go for prayers in the morning in church, from there I'm out evangelizing. Every morning evangelizing. I don't mind coming back home to sleep after that before going to the office. At least catch 1 or 2 hours sleep to regenerate. But I must step out early. From the blues, the European Union, I had never done anything with the European Union. They called a former boss of mine and said, we need a team to evaluate the federal government's economic recovery and growth program. You know, remember when there was a recession and Buhari was sick and went abroad and Osibanjo was the one in charge of the country? He started a program called ERGP that died as soon as Buhari was re-elected. We want to evaluate it. We've put in so much resources into it, and we want to see where is it going. Put together a team, and this former boss of mine, the first person that came to mind was me. I was at Istanbul airport with my second daughter. We're traveling to Manchester when I get a call from him, and he says to me, are you available for like a 3-month period to do a very detailed impact evaluation for the federal government? I said, yeah, I am. I'd never done any such thing for the federal government before. I said, yes, I am. And I get letters very quickly, agreements are signed. The European Union engages me for a period of 3 months to go and be embedded in the presidency and the Minister of Budget and National Planning, as it was called then, BNP, to work with Udo Udoma, who was then the minister. So I looked at it, that was my first reward. You know, God's reward comes in cycles. That was my first reward. For a whole year that nothing had happened, and we had been busy doing evangelism. So since I didn't have work to do, I was doing God's work. People of God, there's no creativity, no intelligence without access to God. The word of God says, he that winneth souls is wise. And the wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament. What that tells me is that since wisdom is the underlying thing for creativity, for breakthrough, you want creativity, you want breakthrough, you want network, everything you're looking for, those contacts you're looking for, everything that will make a difference in your life, face God's work first. When my friend who connected me to our father here, because I'm very sure they will soon put oil on his head, the way he's going, connected me to him, asked me to come and speak here today. He said to me, you've just told me you want me to come and speak at Redeem. I said, yes, I will come. Then within 30 minutes, you tell me, can you send what you're going to present to them? I said, Oga, you just told me about these things a few minutes ago. And I'm in a workshop organized by FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. Let me finish first. Then tonight I'll get back to you. Say, okay, tonight is fine. So I said, what am I going to speak on? To be honest with you, what I'm sharing with you right now has nothing to do with what I came prepared for. The Holy Spirit just led me. So, I sent him something. Business toolkit, business startup toolkit. I'm sure all of you would love to hear that. Everybody wants like a checklist that you can be checking, to do business. We'll talk about that slightly, and then I can send you a detailed slide presentation that can guide you. But I want you to come to terms with the fact that if you plug into the source, no devil, no Amorite can stop you. So I went and did that assignment for the federal government. One day, I appear in the office first thing on a Monday morning, and I get a message. Mr. Ekpuk, you're representing the president at the Nigerian Oil and Gas Summit this morning at the International. As I did so, I don't sit down for chair where they keep for president. I was not registered. I'm not in the oil and gas industry. Now I'm just getting into the oil and gas industry. There are so many things I don't know about the oil and gas industry, even though I have served the oil and gas industry repeatedly in times past. Some of you know Osubi Airport in Warri. I built it. I've done a whole lot in the oil industry. The first submarine fiber cable connecting all shell locations in Nigeria, I built it underwater. But I don't consider myself an oil and gas. Remember, I started by saying my background is in finance. Because I spent the better part of my years, productive years, taking other people's money and giving it to people. That's banking. Banking, you don't own the money. You just wear a suit that makes you look like you have money. Is there any banker here? You're a banker, sir? You're a banker? Yeah. I was about to finish banking, but because of you, and we're in the same team, Man U, I will not finish banking. I originally wanted to be an architect. Is there any architect here? You're an architect. I love to draw lines till tomorrow. If I see any building, as I walk into any place, the first thing I do is take the dimensions. I've taken the dimensions of this auditorium as soon as I sat down, just by looking. Once you count these ceiling boards, you know the number, the length. That's how passionate I am about architecture and drawing buildings. It's okay. And drawing buildings. But I had a father who was a top banker and said, no, that architecture is a lot of effort. You have to sit up at night, Before technology made life easier, architects used to spend the whole night in the studio. And my father had an idea and said, my son, you enjoy life too much to be an architect. Architecture needs time. And you, that I know, you won't give it that time. So go and study English, since you speak English very well. I considered that affrontal, an insult from my father, and I couldn't say anything about it. So what I did, I said, okay, I'm going to match him in his own career. Let him know that whatever he can do, I can do better, which I did. And as soon as I got to DGM level, I called him and said, my banking career has ended. This part of my life was for you. I'm about to start the side that is for me. And every human being, by the way, is entitled to more than one career. I hope you know. You can have 2, you can have 3. It depends on how long you want to invest in each career. But each time you're starting on a better pedestal than the last time, because you now have experience that you didn't have when you started the last one. So I love architecture. I love drawing. But I have not had any I've not worked in the oil industry. So only for me to ask, why am I being sent to this summit? Just out of curiosity. I was asking the chief of staff, who later passed on, Abakari. He said, my son, are you not the one reviewing how well we have performed? And you're in charge of power and gas because we broke the job into segments. So since EU sent you to come and investigate how well we have done, you will go and tell people outside how well we have done. Thank you, sir. You got it. They set me up. So that day, all over the news, everywhere, the President Muhammadu Buhari, while speaking at the Nigerian Oil and Gas Summit, represented by his special assistant, I don't get that kind of title, Mr. Sam Ekpuk, SAERGP Gas, Power and Gas. There's no such title in the federal government. But they had to call me something, isn't it? So a lot of things you hear on the media are now fake. Now audio title. So I gave my speech. Different people. Guess what? The network I built in one morning of sitting on the president's seat. Ibe Kachuku was then the minister for petroleum, and he sat next to me. So by protocol, I was superior to him. This was the Ibe Kachuku I had been trying to see. Now I'm his oga. The gifts of a man makes way for him. So that brings me into the first thing you must do. I wanted to set the foundation first, that our focus must be God. And I've shown you how our focus can be God, using the story of the children of Israel who encamped at Mount Horeb. But God wasn't pleased that they were feeling safe in a position he did not keep for them. So if you're not walking in God's plan, find it. Find your Amorites now and confront them before it's too late. God doesn't allow people to waste. He doesn't allow talent to waste. Late last year, I think on the last day of last year, we were, crossover service. And my father in faith, Bishop David Oyedepo, said, bring out a sheet of paper and write how many more years you want to spend on earth. So I brought out a sheet of paper and wrote how many more years I want to spend on earth. Then he prayed over all of us. As you have written it, so shall it be. As I finished the prayer, the Holy Spirit asked me instantly, when I give you these additional years, what are you going to do with it? And I brought it up here so that all of you know that every extra day God gives to you is for a purpose. If you waste it, he gets angry. Even in your business and career, it's for a purpose. I'm in the process. My wife just reminded me yesterday night about some lady that I'm supposed to hire. And I just told myself, okay, I'm going on a trip. I don't want her to be hired and nobody guides her. What is her terms of reference? Office administrator. There's nothing to administer in my office. So what else will I give her to do? I have a list of over 4,000 people that I have ministered to in evangelism field, that I have their numbers and emails. She's going to be my follow-up general. I'll pay her to follow up on my behalf. And every day send them materials, SMS, flyers, the word. I just found out that, bringing 4,000 people to church is a piece of cake. I've spoken to them. I have all their names and numbers in an Excel sheet. Except the Lord builded a house. So I wanted to be an architect. Let me be an architect for God, for Christ. So God, the Holy Spirit said to me, what will you do when I give you this additional number of years? Then something struck in me. And now went on to explain to me, is it that when I give you the number of years, you wake up one morning and say you're retired, you sit down. Most retirees just sit down and watch cars drive past the front of the house and feel they have arrived. Is that useful to God? So ask yourself, whatever it is I want to put my hands into, is it useful to God? Some of you want to leave the country. Good luck. I don't want to be a second-class citizen anywhere. Incidentally, I carry 2 nationalities. But I believe that this is the only place I'm a first-class citizen, because in any other place, the color of your skin might give you away. So for me, the second passport is just for traveling. If you wake me up now and say, let's go to Eswatini. I'm looking for a country I've never been to, Eswatini. I will follow you. I have the passport to go anywhere. I don't need visas to go anywhere. But that's not purpose. I've visited 69 countries and counting. But that's not purpose. Purpose is knowing what God has deposited in you and utilizing it. Allowing it to manifest. So, having talked about moving away from confronting your Amorites, let's take the first toolkit, preparation. Preparation, I think it's Numbers 33. If you read it, the children of Israel were going to move the ark of the tabernacle. And God gave Moses specific instructions. The preparation of the ark for movement will be done by Aaron and his sons, who were the priests, isn't it? Division of labor. But when it is time to move it, the movement will not be done by the priests. They've not yet moved, though. They are about to confront the Canaanites or move into the land of the Canaanites. God is showing you that there's a preparation you need to make. Who will make the preparation? Who is responsible for preparing the tabernacle? And who is going to move it? And he also warned that the people who are moving it cannot touch the tabernacle. So they are only permitted to touch what carries the tabernacle. Planning. One of the biggest challenges of African businesses and careers. Planning. I was less than a year in my career life, straight from school. How many of you went to University of Calabar here? Nobody. You people missed a good school those days. I don't know what it is like now. Yes, I'm a Malabite. So, straight from school, I went to work, and a former boss of mine, my first boss, actually looks at me and says, have you ever seen any feasibility study in Nigeria that posted a loss? Banker, have you seen any? Everybody writes a feasibility plan and says it will make mega profit. This business will pay you back in 2 years. You all know that that's a lie. So when they bring it to us, we, based on market knowledge, I was trained by Citibank as a credit analyst. I went around the world being trained as a credit analyst. The first thing we'll do is we leave all your story. We check what is industry standard for this kind of business. Then we go to your cash flow assumptions. Once we look at the assumptions, I spent the whole of this week in a client's office in Lagos working out assumptions for a transaction of $15 million. This week. That's what, Monday, Tuesday, that's all I did. Because every figure inside that feasibility is tied to what? Those assumptions. If the assumptions are fake, every figure there is fake. Planning, preparation. One of the things we miss out so badly in preparation is, no matter how good your plans are, even if it's the best feasibility plan, who will do it? One of the biggest challenges in business today is capacity. Whether you're in paid employment or you're self-employed, whatever it is, to find the right people to work with is difficult. It's hard. First and foremost, how much are you paying? That mind has gone far. People don't care. Youngsters are not interested in your work. Maybe you don't realize that the people who want to work for you are the people who are not competent to work for you. The people who are competent are not interested in coming. How much is he going to pay me? You hear someone straight from youth service telling you that, sir, if your salary is not up to 350,000 naira, don't call me. Haba. We who started with 4,000, You say, yeah, that was your time. But what I'm driving at, Saz and Maz, because I've seen two ladies in our midst. I brought one, another one came. All right, so Ma, I greet you, Ma. Is that capacity. When you're preparing, ask yourself who will implement this, because you alone cannot do it. So no feasibility can supplant human capacity planning, HR. So you must ask yourself, where will I get qualified people to come and work for me? How many of you know of Revoke? Good. Revoke is a gemstone, a diamond in the rough. It needs just cleaning up. But the challenge is human capacity. Who will do it? It belonged to a company in India in partnership with Rivers and Bayelsa State government, the old Rivers State. Friends, because we did not have capacity, the Indians moved all the monies of that business out. Revoke has the best quality palm processing, nut processing equipment in Africa. Not Nigeria, in Africa. 50,000 tons capacity. It's not functioning the way it should function. They were doing very well at a time. Very, very well. Then the Indians, who can see tomorrow because they planned, saw the challenges this economy was going to possess, so they decided, let's systematically pull out. So, based on their very healthy finances, they borrowed silly from the banks. Imagine 10 years ago, someone, or 20 years ago, someone borrowing 5 billion or 3 billion naira. 3 billion naira 20 years ago is about 70 billion today, plus or minus. So they borrowed all that money, and they were moving it. They were using the parent company in India to submit inflated invoices to Nigeria. We will pay through the banks. Pay through the banks. The parent company will send less value than what we have paid for. And the cycle continued. And banks believed that they were doing well, so they kept extending money to them. There's an illusion of success which financiers depend on. But the hard-nut ones will check what I just said, the assumption supporting your cash flow modeling. And you, as a business person, need to know, if I'm going to seek money from someone, what would they be looking out for? So, they ruined that company, and then some guy who came into money decides to go and buy it off from the bank. I wanted to buy it from the banks. I had negotiated with the bank, worked out an arrangement. GT Bank was the lead bank in the consortium. I had discussed with the MD of GT Bank, and then from the blues, they said someone else was offering something more. I left it. The person now comes to me for consulting, and I smile. I didn't tell him that I was interested, but I showed him all the pitfalls that we had identified, which, if he addressed them, would sort things out. He identified that we worked together. We hired people. We brought people from, he couldn't understand why we were paying people 2.5 million naira per month. I said, you want capacity? He said, yes. Then you have to pay for capacity. Those boys came, transformed that place, and in so short a time, the business started doing well. Then he thought he was in charge. He started treating those boys. And these are guys who have options. They moved. He has put it back in the market for sale because he can't pay back the debt. He's been trying to sell it since COVID. See, today, nobody's going near. No market. Bad market. I'm sharing this. All of this, by the way, gentlemen, is introductory. But I share my life journeys through stories so that hopefully you would learn one or two things from it. Now, the next thing after preparation you need to focus on is value. So if you are writing notes by now, you should be on number 3. It's value. Dear friends, people will pay you a premium if they think that what you're offering them is valuable. Do you agree with me? I'm doing the same business I was doing 16 years ago. It's just I've changed my presentation. I've changed my style of doing things. I've decided when to walk away. I have a client who I started working with and then found out that he did not have he didn't have the required documentation for us to prepare what he wanted us to prepare for him. I walked away. Yeah, if I had stayed on, maybe I would have struggled through it and made money. But you see, a late friend of mine who was also in this kind of business said to me, he learned from Akintola Williams, the late Akintola Williams, that you never render our kind of service to people who will not understand the value. All right? Consultants can't be consultants to the whole world. There are people who have no need for a consultant. They themselves have to consult for themselves. But by changing our presentation, in fact, there's a guy here in town, owns a big hospital, and is expanding the hospital. And he says, he came to me 2 years ago, 2024, to consult for him, to help him raise money to finish up the expansion project. At that time, I was still operating in the previous realm. So I gave him a bill of 7 million. No, I gave him a bill of 5 million. He quarreled and quarreled and quarreled and quarreled and quarreled. I said, this 5 million is just to prepare your documentation. No. The fundraising, when I start raising funds for you, whatever I raise, I'll keep a percentage of it. That's what I survive on. I pay bills with it. We finally agreed then at 3.5 million. Then he walked away. He did nothing. He said nothing. He blanked me out. Then I went to minister at one of these Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship. I am an active member of the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship. So another chapter invited me over. And he was there with his wife. And I greeted them. You know, the way I would respect you, nobody in that crowd will know that we had a failed, or no, not failed, a transaction that never took off. Because I've moved on. When we finished, he and his wife came to greet me. Then the wife said, I know my husband walked away from you. You will hold him well this time. I said, no problem, man. Then he started calling me every day. When are you coming to see me? He's an elderly man, so of course, I'll go and see him. So I went to see him. We spent the whole morning. It was a pleasant time together. When we finished, he and the wife now sat me down. So how much will you charge us this time? I said, how much can you pay? He said, remember we have a deal for 3.5 million naira. I laughed. I opened my phone. I charged 25,000 US dollars for what I offered you at 3.5 million naira. You want? I can show you evidence of payment, not of invoice, of payment. Calculate that in naira and tell me what portion of that you're going to pay. The wife just turned around. Cut a long story short, she says to me, please, let's double. The husband said, no, we can't double. I don't have that kind of money. I said, find who you have. Me, I won't do this work at your price. Well, I gave it to them at a huge discount from what I would typically, but what am I driving at? The same work, the same effort, the same brain, the same deliverables, a different value set. What are you offering the world? What is it that makes your own different? What is it in that line of business that if you tweak it, just a little tweak, it might not even cost you money, will transform that business? A friend of mine sells clothes. She's widowed. Then a few years ago, she realized the Nigerian fashion scene was changing. Actually discussed it with me, and I said, why don't you do more of leather things? We've not yet started producing quality shoes. No matter what our bar boys will tell you, we have not started producing quality shoes. So why don't you invest in shoes and bags? So she started investing in shoes and bags. She's gotten so big now that the Brazilian government, the Italian government send her visa, send her hotel, send her airfare to come and attend shows, trade fairs in that country. She has just come back from Sao Paulo. 2 months ago, she was in Milan. Same thing, all paid for by those host governments. Why? Because they've seen her volume in importation of shoes and bags from those countries. But that's not where I'm heading to. She calls me the other day and says, the auditors have finished their work. I'm forwarding it to you to review. So I had a meeting with the auditors. You know, one person, boutique, now has auditors that they pay like 10 million naira a year as fees. Inside a market, though, in Abuja. So sends me. So I now have a meeting with the auditors. They had sent their management letter, the issues they've seen, apart from the figures. We went through it and all that. When we finished, she was in the meeting. I said, my take is that we should use between now and January to transform how this business is run. Move all the clothes upstairs and turn the ground floor into a shoe lounge. We have cigar lounge. We have booze lounge. We have all kinds of lounge. What stops us from having shoe lounge? I say it's just about the interior decor. Because right now, she has nowhere to display her shoes. I say you have to, if that is your focus, we've seen that is now accounting for 75% of your income. Let the world see that there's a value here. If people talk about women's shoes, the first thing that should come to their mind is, have you gone to shoe lounge? So I took time and explained the concept. She sent me photographs yesterday of things she's ordering for the internal wall panelings and the display. It's called value. What value? Even in your present business, you can transform the value proposition. Am I taking too much time? Okay, we'll try. We'll try. He's the one driving me, I'm not the one driving myself. Okay, my dear friends. So, value is an internal thing, but it shows. Until you can answer your value proposition, the world will not know what your value proposition is. What changed about my business? It wasn't my intellectual capacity. I've always had it. I've had it even as a university undergraduate. What I'm doing now, I could have done it then. I had the skills. But what has changed is that I asked myself, what do people want? And then I prayed one prayer during our 21 days prayer and fasting in January this year. And it has worked like wildfire. I said, Almighty God, raise my reputation capital. I spent 1 hour on that prayer. King of glory, let everybody who sees me sees reputation. Mighty God, anything that would make my reputation less than God, less than being a son of God, turn it around for me. Because I know reputation is more than money. Reputation is skills, Execution capacity, because you may have the skills, you don't know how to execute. Integrity. Transparency. You know there's a difference between integrity and transparency. You may be honest. I always tell people your honesty is not known until it's tested. But you can put a set of processes in place that anybody from a distance can say, I like to do business with these people because you can see the end from the beginning. It's called transparency. Consultants have a way of hiding things, make it look like it's rocket science. There's no rocket science. No matter what kind of consultancy you're doing, there's no rocket science. Because I'm learning, you're learning. Consultancy is, I learn to serve you. Everything in consulting is a function of how much learning you have done. Sorry. So because of time, I'm just going to go through the other key elements of a good business or good career. We've talked about value. So you must sit back and ask yourself, what value am I giving to my customers? What is it that they get from me they cannot get from anywhere else? You're a trader. How do you present the materials you're trading? How do you educate the users? You know that some things people buy, they don't know how to use it. You and I, anybody who is above 50 years here, will have a challenge learning how to use some of the TVs they are selling now. Do you agree with me? So you call your children, come and put on this thing for me. If you're like me, that the children have all left home, who will you call? Who will you call? Read the manual. But if the person who sold you that TV sends someone to come and install it and show you how it is used, will you value that person more? Will you keep going back to that person to do more business? I just gave you a very simple example of how to confer value. Value is not just inside of you, it is what you give to people. People don't buy the product, they buy the value. Haven't you seen many people who have bought things that they don't need because they felt it was very valuable to keep it? Of course, there are some things that are so valuable, it speaks for itself. Jewelry. By the special grace of God, my wife is a lawyer, but had at some stage of her career decided to go into jewelry business. And for want of time, I would have told you a story that will make you laugh. But let me go straight to the point. When things got very tough for me in consulting, when you could go on for 6 months without earning a dime, and that's one thing anybody who is going into consulting needs to prepare himself mentally for. There are some days you may be sitting on billions. The next 6 months you may be sitting on nothing. So how do you manage the billions to carry you till the next billion? With all the pressures of life, school fees, name it, all housekeeping, everything, you still have to manage it. Otherwise, if you go bankrupt, the next billion will not come. You know, people don't respect you when you're down. You know that. So, it is from the little gold, if you may call it little, because I don't see gold as little, that my wife was selling. From time to time, she would buy me all these studs, you know, that we wear with our cloth, that I was using to pay school fees in England when things went down. I never went to anybody to beg for money. My wife would just carry jewelry, carry studs, everything, go to D-Line and exchange it for cash. Those malams will give her cash. Now, some of those jewelry were bought when gold was $550 per ounce. Gold is 10 times that amount now. It's $5,500 per ounce today. So there's some value that speaks for itself. I also have a neighbor who sold all her jewelry to build a school. Value. So all those things you see women buying and keeping is a store of value. It's not that type of value I'm talking about. I'm talking the one that 90 people, 100 people are offering the same thing. Then yours, you're offering the same thing but with a different tweak. That's the type of value I'm talking about. Now let's go to item 4 because we have about 9 items and I'm going to run through the others. In all labor, the Bible says there is profit. Men of God, have you seen that in your Bible? In all labor, there is profit. But profit comes in levels. The Bible also talks about the glory of the stars, the glory of the moon, the brightness of the stars, of the moon, and of the sun. They shine differently, isn't it? Which one do you want to be? Moon? Star? Or sun? I chose to be a sun. The world must hear of what God is doing in my life. I chose to be a sun. Oh, you're a star. No, I've moved from the realm of the star. Because there's something about the sun. The sun does not just give brightness. It does not just give energy. It also destroys adversaries. It's like going to hug a transformer. You know the implication now. That's the sun experience. Now, all labor, the Bible says, it brings profit. But profit is in levels. You've heard of women who have grilled bole and send their children to school. Fine, no problem. I agree. I support such people if I see, because it's better than selling recharge card of those days to sell bole. But my dear friends and brethren, in my present circumstance, there's no amount of bole I'll sell in Port Harcourt that will pay my bills. So, for you to be motivated to do that business with all of your heart, first ask yourself, what will come out of it for me? What is the level of profitability? I don't look for businesses that pay 1 million naira a month. It will never, my bills, it doesn't touch me. Let it look like that thing is impossible. God will take me there, but we must get there because to pay my bills, that is the thing that is required. So profit. Don't do anything for charity except it is your purpose in this thing was charity. I know people that anything you take from them, from that business, you must pay, no matter who you are. My wife has a bakery. We traveled the other day to Asaba for some meeting, and she filled the whole boot with bread. And I collected bread and gave to 1 or 2 people. This is a business that I support, all right? But they not born you well, you no pay for that bread, though. My wife, she did here. She's right now, her face is in her phone because she's not finding this gist funny. She's your customer, yes, I know she's your customer, all right? But between you and I, my dear friends, I paid. Why is that important? Because that's the only way the profit in that business, she will see it someday. I can't be sitting here and telling her you must make profit in this business, and then I'm the one who is taking away the profits. Sleep is not a profit. I can't be talking and you'll be sleeping. I'll fight you. Don't mind me. That's how I am, friends. He probably worked overnight. You know, as an architect concerned, isn't it? You know, we talked about the nature of architects. So closely related to profit is the earning capacity. There are some businesses that can't go beyond this particular level. There are some businesses you can't scale. We call it scale. If you build a hotel and it has 20 rooms, no matter how fantastic that the service of that hotel is, you can't have more than 20 guests a night. True or false? That's why hotel business is not my kettle of fish. I won't waste my money on something that I can't just do 1 or 2 things and it expands. No, I won't. It's in my head. I can't. And haven't you noticed that after 3 years in Port Harcourt, When new hotels come, nobody goes to the old hotels anymore. So you're building or buying something that is definite that its cash flow has this kind of curve. It's going down like this. Except you invest heavy. But no matter how heavy you invest, you can't expand its earnings capacity overnight. If you decide you want to build an annex or an extension, it will take you minimum of 6 months to build it, isn't it? But me, I want to change my earnings capacity overnight. So a good business must have flexible earning capacity. Value, profit, earning capacity. Liquidity is the next one. I don't like businesses that they owe people or they buy things on credit. I know some of you think that you can't make a sale in your business without profit. Sorry, please, 1 second. Hello? So, I can't. I'm in the middle of a workshop. My wife is going to call you right now. So liquidity. The more liquid your business is, what I mean by liquidity, the more you can turn whatever you have into cash, the better its capacity, the greater its capacity to grow. There are some things you can buy and keep, and the profit margin is large. But while you're keeping it, there's a cost associated with it. Let me use a simple example. If you sell brand new cars, that car may not sell for 5 months, but the day it sells, the profit is huge, isn't it? Beautiful. So a lot of people wait for that 5 months. It's like consulting that you have to wait some months before you see certain things. Fine, no. But let me also correct. Since I spoke to God about reputation capital, there's no week I don't get a new client. So that era of you wait a long time is gone. Okay. So while that car is in your garage, you're paying for security. True or false? You're paying for insurance. You know there's an insurance that you have to pay, goods in your warehouse insurance. Otherwise, if anything goes wrong, you've lost the vehicle, isn't it? So you're paying for insurance. You're paying the salary of salespeople who keep bringing people to come and look at the car. And yet, no money. So you may see the big profits, but it's not cash in your hand. Liquidity. But if you were selling food, will you see the cash every day? Now, let me ask. Sorry, I'm engaging now. Between cooked food and raw food, which one is more liquid? Cooked food, raw food, cooked food. Which one would you go into? Cooked food. Beautiful. There is more margin, profit in cooked food, but there is more liquidity in raw food. There is more value you can add. That's why the margin is higher in cooked food. But it just takes one person to go and say something wrong about that your cooked food, and the value comes down. But ugu, afang, fish will always sell because they don't check the afang on it. So long as it's not bad, so long as it's still fresh, they will buy it off you. The only drawback is you have to preserve it. It has the risk. But even in cooked food, you still have to preserve. The amount of infrastructure required for cooked food is higher than the infrastructure for raw food. So between you and I'll do raw food. I'll just choose which raw food to go to. I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. So in terms of liquidity, any good business person should always look for something that gives him cash quickly. So you're not holding on to inventory for a long time. Because inventory has a cost of holding on to it. It has cost implications. It should also be a business that is, transferable. That's the next point. Transferable. It's easy to sell. When a business is too technical, only people in that line would know what it takes to buy it. Do you agree with me? Even bankers are afraid to finance anything that is too technical. There's a client of mine right now that wants to start producing a gas that is used for advanced precision welding known as argon. Argon is imported into Nigeria after all these years. And argon is just gotten by trapping this air. You trap this air and transform it at a particular temperature into it. So you're separating the gases that are inside this air. And in this whole air that we breathe, only 2.5% of it is argon. But they're having to spend $15 million for that infrastructure. Of course, the other products that come before the argon, it's like a refinery. Refinery, there are processes. Good. It's difficult to ask any bank in Nigeria to give them money. Because they don't understand the process. They would rather give you money to import it and sell quickly and give us the cash. And they're seeing the cash. So I'm in the process of going to China now to go and negotiate with the OEM to give them suppliers credit. Why? They have 50% of the money. So we can, you guys wait. We'll make the money and pay the other 50%. So it's a question of, is this business too technical that I can't transfer it? I can't sell it. I can't get out of it. When I mean transferability, it's also exit, the ease of exit. If you get to a particular age and you don't think you should still be running this, and your children have moved on to do other things in life, shouldn't you be able to sell the business? Many of us are living in houses we don't need to live in. Some of us are at an age when we need a 2-bedroom house, we are still living in a 5-bedroom house. The cost of maintaining a 5-bedroom house is killing us. Same thing with our businesses. Life is like this. You start like this, you go up, you plateau at some point, then you start shedding weight. Because you build those big houses when the kids were around, isn't it? The kids have moved on. And they are not interested in your houses. My kids, I begged them to come for NYSC. They refused. In fact, they warned me and reminded me of a friend of mine whose child came for NYSC and died. So as far as I'm concerned, I've exported my children. Painfully so. When I think back now, I say, could they have stayed here and studied? So you get to that point where you need to ask yourself, tomorrow if I want to sell this business, who will buy it? I'm in the process of going into a major fisheries business right now. And guess what? I'm already thinking of when I'm going to put it on the stock exchange so that people can buy it off and I can move on and enjoy my retirement in quietness. So my plan doesn't just end with the profit I'm going to make today. My plan will not end until I have exited the business. Exit does not mean you no longer own the business. It just means you're not the one managing it day to day again. I have a plan for it. I went to the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy to go and ask for a license to import fish. And someone told me I had to pay 50 million naira for the volume of the tonnage I was asking for. But you see, this is my God who doesn't want me to give anybody backhand money. Kept me last week next to the director of that department in that ministry who will sign my license in a program by FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. And I just said to her, Aja, they say it's you that is supposed to sign this thing and you want 50 million. I said, Sam, bring the paper, I'll sign it for you. You don't have a problem. I just saved 50 million naira. Connect. Thank you, sir. The next one is measurable risk. There's no business that does not have risk. So you have two things to do. Identify the risk, measure the risk. In fact, three things. The third thing is, what will I do to prevent this risk from turning to a certainty? We have uncertainty, we have risk, and we have certainty in that level. So we have people whose skills it is to tell you, to give you a roadmap on how to manage risks. In fact, that is a core part of what I do for a living as a consultant. If you're going to raise money, you have to identify what are the risks associated with this business. No financier, no matter how kind, even your family, if they're financing you, they'll ask you, this business, what if it goes wrong? True or false? So you must know how to manage the risks. A healthy business must have measurable risk, meaning you have sat down, identified the risk, and how you want to deal with the risk if it comes up. Let nothing catch you unawares. Otherwise, the business goes down. Finally, every good business should be fungible. Open your phones, go to Google. Type fungible, Fungible. Fungible. What did I say? Fungible. 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 Anybody who has seen it, can you share what it is? Sorry? Thank you. Thank you. The asset you're holding today, if you want to move out of it, or it is giving you problems, can you replace it? Can you split it up? Your business today, if you're having difficulties in the business, what portion of this business can be reprogrammed to do something else for you? Fungibility. Simply meaning, if I was producing pure water, what can I do to change my pure water production to juice production? Using the same asset or just adding something small to it. You know that all you need to do is just to buy a bottling plant to add to it, because the water filtration and treatment process is the same, isn't it? Whether it is water, yogurt, juice, it's the same water treatment process. Incidentally, that's one area of business that I think a lot of people need to take a look at. It's never enough. See? In this room now, if this room were full, imagine the number of cartons of water we would have distributed today. Isn't it? So my take is that any business that you cannot change its use, change the use of the asset, is a problem. You're stuck with it. If you're a block molder, you see that mixing machine that we used to mix cement and sand, that mixing machine. All you need to do to stop being a block molder is to add a pump, a concrete pump, and start going to different sites. When they want to do their decking and their pillars, you simply carry your machine there. 20 minutes, you collect the money that laborers would have collected for 7 days, isn't it? You move to the next one. It's a style of business. The difference between that and molding blocks is that instead of using those molds, you're now using a concrete hose, a concrete pump. Finish. Always sit back and say, this business, how can I repurpose it? Having said that, let me end by saying that people keep coming to me to ask, what do I invest in? What do I invest in? There's nothing you can't invest in if it follows these rules I just gave you is the rules for a good and healthy business investment. I didn't come to talk about the stock market. If I start that, we won't leave here. I know some of you thought that's what we're going to be discussing today. So I thank you, and if you need, he has my contacts. If you need anything, since he's driving me away, just reach out to him. He'll call me. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Please, an applause for Pastor Sam Ekpo for Pastor. Please, I'm going to do 5 minutes for question, but I'm going to do something a little bit unusual. I will introduce the next speaker so that immediately after the question and answer, the next speaker will come up. So the next speaker is Mr. Riman Shamaki. He's into investment. So he's going to talk about everything investment and go a little bit into detail. And so we leave the floor now for question and answer. Pastor Sam has actually mesmerized us. I can see many of us don't want him to go, but we are working according to schedule, according to time. So we need to take up the question and answer now. So please, do you have questions? Do you have questions? If you have questions, if you don't have questions, we are going to bring you again, sir. Please, sir, we are going to bring you again on our normal monthly meeting. This one we're doing is the men's conference. It's the men's conference for 2026. Thank God that we are in touch right now. My friend that introduced me to Pastor Sam is also into investment, and he will be the one speaking virtual today. Praise the Lord. So do we have questions? Okay. All right. So, Pastor, the question is for you.
Thank God for the teaching. It was immense and eye-opening. You talk about when you want to do a business, you need to consider your financial assumption, because that's going to affect whether that business will be successful or not. How do you manage that with regard to what you want to do? I don't know if you get my question. Should I? That's the question. Because you said it's key. Okay. Whether there are other questions.
Okay. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for the impact. For a business or a kind of business where you render services and you have a price already, and looking at the environment, everyone is saying, this is too high, this is too high, and you know the service like you talked about. And for a business, you don't have so much clients already, and you really want to grow this business, and everybody's saying, do you walk away from every price? Do you walk away from every price that is actually lower from your price?
All right, my question is related to what my friend there just asked. And I want to ask, assuming you are doing a business and there is a sudden surge in price of the things you are selling, maybe like what happened after when this new government came, because of the increase in pump price and everything, cost of everything just went up. Are you advising that we sell according to how we bought or according to the current price based on the current reality?
Thank you very much. Okay, let me start from the last person and come back. Business is not about price, but you can't make profit without the right price. So if you must do a business, one of the critical considerations is cost recoverability. If you can't recover your costs, your replacement cost, not your original purchase cost. So let me use filling station as an example. When you bought fuel to sell, fuel was 800 naira. Then Iran war comes, fuel jumps to 1,003. This just happened a few weeks ago, isn't it? If you sell at 800 naira, you won't be able to buy fuel at 1,003 to replace. So you sell at your replacement price. That's why as soon as prices go up, irrespective of what is inside, how much you bought the fuel that is in the ground, your own price has to go up. You don't blame them, because for them to stay in business and keep serving you, they have to charge what allows them to recover. So it's called replacement pricing. Does that answer your question? Good. To your question, sir. You're offering a service. The price is pretty well fixed in the market. So you are unable to give it at a higher price. What you need to ask yourself, first and foremost, is what value are you giving? And secondly, are you sure you're not getting your inputs at a higher price? Because if your inputs were at a lower price, you'll be able to sell it at the same price or slightly lower, isn't it? So your challenge may be one or both of two things. Either you're not giving the kind of value that commands that price, or your inputs are too high. Now let me explain something about input, something you'll find very interesting. If you get a hybrid, a high-yielding cockerel that produces eggs, poultry, it takes it, let's assume you buy it at the point of lay. For 1 year, it is going to produce plus or minus 10%, 200 eggs for you. In 18 months, it would have produced plus or minus 300 eggs for you. 300 eggs, knock off 20%, loss, all kinds of losses. Take out 20%. It can be worse, but I'm just being very generous, 20%. What you're left with is 80%, 240 eggs. So in an 18-month period, the active laying period of a cockerel, you have produced 240 eggs. Now, I didn't do agricultural economics. It's just this consulting work took me to a large poultry up north, and I can do this analysis for you. All right. 240 eggs is 8 crates of eggs. 8 crates of eggs at, let's take an example, 7,000 naira is 56,000, isn't it? Beautiful. 56,000 plus selling the old layer for 12,000 is 68,000. So if you sell eggs, the maximum I expect you to make from selling eggs today is 70,000 naira. If that's your business, for each chicken you raise, each cockerel you raise, it's 70,000 naira. It won't be more than that. But if you just went and bought a small hatchery that hatches about 100 eggs per day, those 240 eggs, how many of you know how much a day-old chick is? How much? 150, 1,000. I was wondering which country you're coming from. 1,000, 1,200, 1,500. That stretch. Okay. It varies. Let me use the upper limit. I like the upper limit. I like money. So 1,500. Multiply, can someone multiply 240 by 1,005? I can tell you what it is. It's 360,000 naira. All right? So by just putting a hatchery that hatches 100 eggs per day, which is not such a huge investment, but it's an investment all the same, you have moved that same business, the same feed, the same everything. You have moved it from 70,000 to 360,000. Now feed those eggs, those day-old chicks for another 12 weeks. How much does it come to? How much is one chicken today in the market? So let's say 15,000. So multiply that, it tells you 3.6 million. The same eggs. From 70,000 to 3.6 million. What changed? What changed? What changed? Value changed. That's all that changed, value. The cost increases, but it doesn't increase as fast as the value. So your margin gets bigger. Your headache also gets bigger, but you will see the result at the end. Now, coming to your question, sir. Have I answered you, sir? Okay, coming to your question, sir. You cannot successfully guide a business if you don't have a set of assumptions that you're checking every day to see, has it changed? Is it still there? So you're not just doing those financial assumptions for the purpose of accessing a loan. You're also doing it to guide the operations of the business. You call it budgeting, isn't it? When you want to budget, don't you have assumption? When Nigeria is doing budget, they say oil is 65 naira per barrel. So if oil goes below 65 naira, that budget will not work. Even though in Nigeria, even if it gets to 200 naira, the budget still does not work. So what I'm driving at is those assumptions are things you need to sit down and look at, drill down. If you need professional help, you get it. To determine that this business, if it runs by these assumptions, it can produce this level of profit or loss. Because any good business doesn't start overnight with profit. What is good is, he said, don't despise the day of small beginnings. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much, Pastor Sam. Thank you very much. You already told me that you are going to attend something else. So please, let's welcome the next speaker, Shimam. Let's welcome him, please. An applause to the next speaker. This is Rimam Shimaki. Rima Shimaki. You are welcome, sir. You are welcome, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here today. Honestly, I didn't know this was going to happen. So, of course, we have to turn up for things that actually matter to people and how we can create value at every point in time. My name is Shamaki Rimam. I get it a lot when people ask me, what's the name and everything, what is Shamaki? I'm a northerner, by the way. So going straight into things, the last speaker basically spoke about active business, how to make income, how to, scale our businesses and make the best out of it. I'm here to talk to us about how to actually prioritize whatever we get out of our businesses, out of our savings, out of whatever things that we've kept aside. I work with Guarantee Trust, GT fund managers, to be specific, and I handle the investment part of GT in the South, and the Southeast. And what we do specifically is we talk to people about how to manage their income. The fact that you make monies, we understand that you have expenses. After the expenses have been brought forward, the savings that are left, what do you do with them to ensure that you have the maximum return on that monies? Not just keeping your monies idle, but ensuring that everything that you do or anything that you set those monies to do will give you the best out of it. At the end of everything, it has to do with having an income, budgeting your income, making proper plans for what you do with your monies, and then the excess. Now, the idea is, what do you do with that excess? How do you maximize the excess that you have to, give you some kind of leeway to do the things that you want to do? The honest truth is this, that the market in Nigeria, sorry, I'm talking as an investment banker right now. The honest truth is, the market in Nigeria will not allow you to earn as much as you want to earn. There's inflation, there are monetary policy rates, and what the government has done is that in everything that they do, they want to always put prices at par with what inflation is doing, and then maybe 1 or 2% above that, so that it doesn't mean like your money is idle. But when we look at what the inflation is doing today in Nigeria, everything that we see is just on paper. I can categorically tell you that right now the inflation in Nigeria is around 15.6%, but it doesn't trickle down to the normal man. It doesn't trickle down to the normal man. We've been buying things from 2024. The prices of things that we've been buying are still the same that we are buying them today. And mind you, in 2024, prices of things were around, or inflation was around 35%. But the government is telling us today that inflation is 15.6%. But has it actually trickled down to the common man? Because if I was buying something at 300 naira in 2024, I should be able to buy it at maybe 150,000 naira now. But the question is that the case? It's not the case. So, I don't want to start to bore us into all the aspects of investment, what the things that we ought to do for investment, the different kinds of investment. I know that we have questions, and to be honest, I'm just here to answer our questions. And those questions are centered on, what do you have to do to maximize the excess that you have, to maximize the savings that you have? Because at the end of the day, we have a lot of things when it has to do with investment. There are a lot of instruments. There are a lot of places you can put your monies to. Of course, we have to talk about the risk involved in it. We have to talk about the kind of instrument you want to do. We have to talk about the amount of monies you want to do. So when I'm speaking, it will be a very, very long talk on each and everything that we have to do, what we have to do, and how we have to do it. So it's my aim that in everything that we do here, I want it to be as interactive as possible. I don't want to tell you what I know. I want to be able to answer the questions or the gray areas that you do not know in terms of investment. Anything that it has to do, irrespective of what I do or what I don't do, provided that it has to do with investment, I want to be able to answer each and every question that we have. To the point that when we leave here today, we are all satisfied that we can conveniently walk into anywhere that we go to and do whatever kind of investment that's in our mind, based off on the answers that we've gotten here today. So, like I said, I'm not here to talk. Of course, there are lots of investment opportunities. There are a lot of questions we have. Some of us have even done investment in the past where it has gone south. And they've lost, a lot of people have lost interest in investing. A lot of people will ask questions and say, why do I even have to do these things in the first place? These are the questions that I'm here to answer. So, I'm so sorry, I'm not much of a public speaker, please. So, I'll just keep the mic open to answer as much questions as possible. Any questions you have in terms of investment, anyone, I'll try my possible best to answer. So, sir. Yes, sir.
Praise the Lord. My name is Femi Odumosu. Yeah. Maybe I should be specific. You want to go into catfish, fishery, right? And then you had your plans, and like our earlier speaker said, that you have your assumption, and you are into it, or you are about to go into it, only to realize that from what you have calculated about for the investment, the sales, and all of that, suddenly the feed rises and the selling price does not rise. How do you manage this? Because by the time you are through with it and you want to sell, nobody wants to buy the price of what you use in feeding, but you put in the cost of that. So how do you manage that?
Thank you so much. Okay, let me just do this first. Because his own question is a little bit different from what I came to talk about. But let me just answer it. So the whole idea of investing. So when going into a fishing business, first of all, that is an investment on its own. But we have to understand that going into a business is an investment. Now, investments are in different categories based off on risk, based off on how active you are in participation, based off on your time, based off on everything. Sir, the honest answer I'll give you is, you are not the reason why the country is where it is today. If you buy feed at 4,000 naira and the selling price is 6,000 naira, as a businessman, it doesn't have to be logically, but as a businessman, the right thing to do is to factor that into your selling price so that you can buy again to feed your fish. That's, for me personally, that's the most logical thing to do. So if you're buying at a price and the market, so it is this way. And I want to relate it to what we have in the stock market, for example, that you're buying into the shares of a company. You buy a company at 1 naira. You invest 1 million naira and the share price of that company is at 1 naira. At any point in time, when you want to sell that shares, you're selling it based off on the performance that company is doing at the time you want to sell it. It's not your fault. It's that this is what the market is doing. This is what the company is doing. So you buy a share. For example, GT shares was selling at, we had an IPO sometime last year at 44 naira 50 kobo sometime last year. It means that if you had invested 44 naira 50 kobo into GTCO shares last year, you would have been up by, right now the value of your money will be around 115 million. But that is because it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's that there's a management working for GT. They do what they do. They take decisions on your behalf. In this case, for a business, you're where you are. You have your president working for you, takes decisions on your behalf, and whatever the market does, it's not because you are a fisherman or because you invested in this thing. It's that this is where the market is. Because at the end of the day, if you buy feed at 4,000 naira today and the prices of feed drop to 500 naira, you will not reduce the price of your fishes just because the price of feed has dropped to 500 naira. Because you factored in that cost and you have to make profit from what you've invested in the business. I don't know if I've answered your question, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. You raised a concern when you started the presentation that around 2024, the inflation rate was around 30-something%, and now they are telling us 50-something%. And you also complained that it's not trickling down. So my question is actually, what is the blockade that made it not to trickle down? Why is it not trickling down? The exchange rate also in 2024 was relatively high compared to how it is now. And we see that the cost of items are almost the same. So from your point of view, what do you think is responsible for this stability in price, yet the inflation rates are not the same?
Thank you so much. This question is something that a lot of people have asked, and, it's a concern to a lot of people. So first things first, we have to understand that Nigeria is a very unique country. When I say unique country, in the sense that everything you've been taught in school, when you apply it in Nigeria, it does not work. It will not even work because we have special characteristics. Now, why is inflation coming down, but it's not trickling to the common man? Basically because the guys that give us these figures for the inflation, the CBN and everybody, where they are, what they have to do from their own end is implement policies. They don't come to the common man to say, this is what we have to do. And I'll always make this argument and say that as Nigerians, we are our own problem. I believe that there's a lot that we can do at every point in place where we stand. First things first, how do we calculate inflation to begin with? Inflation is a combination of different indexes. You know, there's food inflation, there are different kinds of inflation, importation and everything. So what they do from their end is, and let me just give an example. I am importing. I used to import at 1,500 in the past, and now I'm importing at 1,100. Of course, I'll tell you that prices of things have come down. But the person that is bringing it in at 1,100 is the person selling it at the price equivalent to what they imported? No. And let's not get it wrong. I'm not trying to contradict myself based off on what I spoke about in terms of the cost price and the selling price. Anything that you see today happening in Nigeria is because at the end of the day, we have to understand the availability of the people in power, what they can do, and what our role is as citizens to do to ensure that things go well. So, what I'm trying to say is, yes, they can give us figures. Yes, they can tell us that inflation is at 15.6%. They have the data to back it up and tell us that, yes, we were doing this thing before like this, but this is what things are right now. And it has to do with a lot of rebalancing in terms of inflation and all. Personally, I don't believe that inflation is at 15.6% because it was rebalanced. But what I believe is that inflation has dropped from 35%. But giving me a figure that was at 15.6%, I don't believe that. Why? Because we need to understand how inflation is calculated in the first place. A country calculates their inflation. Okay, so inflation basically in simple terms is, how do I buy things now in comparison to how I used to buy it before? How have the prices of things doubled? Have they gone down? Have they gone up? For example, in the US, their inflation is still calculated at, or is still balanced at around 1980 something or 1990 something. So what they are saying is, at the time back then, the price of orange was $1. Now, how much is the price of orange? And you can effectively calculate what your inflation is based off on doing it in such a way that the year you're calculating that thing with, things were very, very good. In this case, I said US are still doing their own in around 19 something. I don't know the exact year, but I think 1980 something. In the case of our country, we have a president that came in and he decided to rebalance inflation, or he balanced his calculation at 2024 figures. Now we all understand that 2024 figures was a time when things were very bad in the country. They just took off the fuel subsidy, took off, so prices of things skyrocketed. So they decided to rebalance the inflation based off on the figures of 2024. Now, when you do that, yes, they might have made progress in terms of what it is, the efforts they are making. But has the figure actually come down to 15.6%? No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so. But have they made progress from where they were before in terms of inflation? And I'm talking about in terms of inflation. I'm talking about generally. I think they've made progress. Because there are policies that they've put, but at the end of the day, from where they are, all they can do is just to implement policies. I think that the better half of it is for the people executing those policies to be able to stand strong in what they do and ensure that everything goes smoothly. I don't know if I've answered your question, sir.
Thank you very much. Praise the Lord. Mine is like a contribution or a question. I don't even know how to put it. But this guy here is my son. And this morning, something strange happened. Because he came to collect some more money from me to go back to school. He's in Uniport. So I actually gave him the money. But I said, before I give you this money, you will clean my house, you will wash my clothes, you will do one or two. You can't just be demand stretching hand for money. Money is not gotten from trees. You have to work for me small. And that happened. And somehow I delayed him till today because I have a program here, so I wanted to be here. So, but that's by the way. But while we are coming to church this morning, he told me that I just made him to miss 100,000. I turned back and looked at him. And I said, how? 100,000 where? Have you started doing Yahoo? He said, no. Everything is not Yahoo. What I'm trying to say now is that the world has gone digital, because from what I'm hearing here since is agriculture, investment, inflation. That's what I've been hearing here. Now, and I asked him, he must explain to me how he missed that 100,000. He didn't want to explain. As we walked to this place, I asked him the second time, stop and explain to me. Because to me, you are being wicked. You have a source of getting such amount, and I'm here, so I'm assaulting to give you 20,000. You must be a wicked boy. He now told me that there's a platform, internet. Everything is not Yahoo. Do you know that this business, this agricultural business and all this egg, you can put it in the internet, and customers will, in fact, you will run. You will go and look for where to borrow egg and supply. Internet. So he said there's a platform whereby you register with your Gmail and all that. The world has gone digital. It's smart world now. And at the end of the day, they make sense. I don't know how it's better for him to explain me. I don't understand. But I want to invest in that. Provided it's not Yahoo, I will get involved in that. And I remember giving him 20,000 when he asked for 20,000 to start that business. He's not even up to 6 months. And he told me that money will still come back again. So all these things happen. You must not be a Yahoo man now to make money in internet. So that's another area I'm expecting you to throw more light on. We know agriculture pays, we know egg, we know all those things. Please tell me more about internet. Because me, I need money. I need money. I have commitments.
Okay, so you're not wrong when you say that a lot of things have gone digital. In fact, to be honest, every business right now, every business that we have gone digital. It depends on what your son is doing, but when it has to do with, investing in digital stuff, we have instances where people go into AI automation, into selling and everything. But I think that the internet space makes things easier, basically, for people. If I sell eggs today, all I have to do is go online, go on Instagram. I can pay 5,000 naira to Instagram. Instagram have more than 3 billion people following them worldwide. I can go there and I tell them, this is what I do. I need customers. And what they will tell me is, you have to pay me 5,000 naira per month. And we are going to take your business to the next level. And sir, I'm just answering this based off on the example that I'm giving. Of course, it has to do with a lot of businesses and what you do. Now, Instagram helps you, and I'm using Instagram only, but you have Facebook, you have TikTok, you have a lot of audiences. These platforms help you take your business, and based off on where you are, for example, if I do that thing in this space, what they do is that they can cover 10 kilometers from where I am. All their users, 10 kilometers from where I am, and tell them that there is somebody that is selling eggs here in this space. And this is the price the person is selling. Let's assume everybody sells at 10,000 naira per crate. Now, for you, you decide and say, I sell at 9,000 naira. Knowing fully well that everybody sells at 10. Guess what will happen? Somebody might be in Choba, and the person will say, if I buy this person's egg at 9,000, the cost of transporting it to my place might be much. So why not I just buy like 10 and keep? Or why not I just buy like 5 and keep? I'm just trying to explain how the internet, or how, it has helped. There's also what we call automation. The fact that automation is now here to simplify every manual process. So in all our workspaces, in the finance, in healthcare, anything that you have to manually sit down and do, there is now a process that can automate it. Anything that you go to your office today and you have to send an email to somebody for something that is happening, you have to do this one. You can sit down at night, do an automation process, and plan your whole day by sitting down 15 minutes. And you just go to sleep, and it will send the email. The person will respond to you and tell you, okay, let's assume you send a mail to people and say, this is what I sell. And somebody responds to you and tell you, how much do you sell this thing? It will automatically respond to the person, tell the person that this is how much I sell. The person sends a message, it will respond back to the person, and you're not even there. That is how easy the internet has made things to be. But my coming here today was basically not to even talk about, businesses and everything. Basically, I thought I was going to come and talk about investments, looking at, okay, we have made this money to this point. We've backed out of our expenses. Where can we put these monies to yield more for us? Looking at stocks, looking at equities, looking at money markets, mutual funds, treasury bills. And to be honest, there are a lot of misconceptions around these things. A lot of people do not know. And I've been in the business for a long time. Like I said, I handle investments for GT in the South, Southeast. And every day, you see people come and tell you, I've worked for 20 years, I've worked for 15 years, I've worked for 35 years. And I don't even know what this thing is. Or the information that I have about this thing is not what I thought it to be. So I think where we should focus our energy right now is, this is what I've saved so far. This is what I've made working. Because there's a difference between active money and passive money. The work you do, be it internet, be it anything, that is your active work. Now you've made the money. How can you employ that money to also make monies for you? How can we employ? Because it's very important. Because you cannot just only sit down and say, I want to make money on a daily basis, and then at the end of the day, for example, you leave work, and then those monies are in your hands. Or while you work, you have monies that are just idle. The whole idea is, how can we make our monies work for us the best way we think it should do? And because I'm saying this because I believe that a lot of us here have instances where we've made those monies, but we have assets sitting down idle. And it doesn't have anything to do with just investing in a financial system. That's why I said anything that has to do with investing It doesn't have anything to do with where I work, and that is why I'm not trying to, sell anything I will do. But it doesn't have anything to do with where I work. But the fact that you need your monies to make money for you. So, sir, I don't know if I've answered your question. The internet makes it easy for you to do things. So it could be that your son is selling egg today. What somebody does not understand is that they can carry that egg and put in front of their house and wait for people to buy. But he would have seen an opportunity where he goes online and people are saying, I need fresh eggs, I need fresh eggs. What the internet does for him is, the internet has the platform already. It gives him the opportunity to say, this is what I do, take it to the world. Let the world see it. The world will respond, but provided that you're able to add value to people. If you sell raw eggs today and they are spoiled, nobody will patronize you. If one person buys, and that's the downside of it, if one person buys and it's bad, they will escalate it to every other person and say, see, this person's business, this is what he sells. The same platform you use to advertise it, this is the same platform that they will go and use and tell the other people that, see, what this guy is doing, we don't trust it. But we are just telling you in case you want to go and do. So imagine that you are doing something legitimately good. The internet will make the sky the limit.
Sorry, I'm asking again. I don't know whether you have the time to explain in details, because what I want to ask now will involve a couple of. You mentioned about, as per the investment area you mentioned, you talked about a treasury bill, bonds, mutual funds, shares and stuff like that, Now, what I want to ask is this. First of all, I would like you to throw more light on this, even though we may know about them, but I'm sure, like me, I don't know in details as much as you will know. Throw more light about these investment opportunities. Also, like the previous speaker said something about liquidity. How liquid are these investment options? And also, what we are really used to is when we have spare money, maybe we tend to buy like we buy land, buy certain kind of investment, keep them to is it really a good investment, or build house, kind of rent it or something like that? Is it really a viable investment? If it is not, what are the alternatives? And why are they really the best? So you can throw more light to that. I guess you have enough time to do that.
Okay, sir. So I think the whole issue of investment is a broad topic. That's why I said that I didn't want to talk about it. I just wanted questions from you, but now that you brought it up. Investments, there are a lot of investments you can do as a person. When you buy land today and sell later, it's an investment. When you build a house and put tenants in it, it's an investment. But you have to calculate and say, what am I doing now? How impactful is this thing in terms of giving me the return that I want out of my own investment? Is what you should look at. Now, when it comes to liquidity and saying how much, because liquidity basically is, what can I do that at any point in time when I want monies, I can get it instantly? Land will not give you that. Land will not give you that, unless if you're ready to sell it at a distress. But from a profit standpoint, land will not give you that. Now, money market fund, for example, is not an investment that you can just stand up and say, I want to go and do on my own. Money market fund was developed by financial institutions, banks, asset management houses that give me your money. We will invest it in whatever we do. Risk-free, your capital is safe, but we pay you interest every day. And you have your monies anytime you want it. So from a liquidity standpoint, you can now see that the money market fund, in fact, the money market fund is the most liquid instrument you can invest in right now. No, so it depends on where you're investing or who you're investing. Okay, let me give you an example. And I didn't want to start to talk about where I work, but let me just give you an example about how the GT money market fund works. We tell you invest your monies with a minimum of 1,000 naira, risk-free, you have to keep those monies for at least 30 days. Why 30 days? It's not as if you can't get your money before 30 days. But we say 30 days because we want you to keep it and get, like, after 30 days, you should be able to look at what you've put and say, I'm making money. So the minimum holding period, we call it the minimum holding period because we want people to hold their monies for at least, because it's an investment. It's not a savings account. We want you to be able to hold the monies for a period and say, I've kept this money for this period and this is what it is for me. Now, I don't know about other houses, but I know that the money market fund is the most liquid financial investment instrument that anybody can do. Because you can, at every point in time, make an investment, request for your money, and within 24 to 48 hours, you get your monies back. So, for example, let me put numbers to it. You have 1 million naira today, and you invest in the money market fund. On a daily basis, based off on what the rate is doing, because the money market fund rate fluctuates on a daily basis. Based off on what the rate is today, you earn approximately around 450 to 500 naira every day with a million naira. When you take that to 10 million naira, that is 4,500 to 500 to 5,000 naira. Take that to 100 million, that is 45 to 50,000 naira on a daily basis. And you have access to these monies at any time. Sir? In reality, yes, sir. And you see, this is the conversation that a lot of people do not know. This is the space where people do not understand, because a lot of people, for me personally, the only money you see in my account is only money that I need to spend. If I have an expense coming up, I can quickly liquidate it from my investment account, put it in my bank and spend. But I do not have monies at every point in time sitting down in my main account, because I know that I can be making more from this, because I work in a financial institution, and the truth of the issue is the financial institution is there to give you service but also make money. Trust me when I tell you that all your money sitting in your bank account is just enriching the bank. Trust me when I tell you that every money you have in your bank is just enriching the bank. Because the bank, as an institution, would take, so when you look at financial institution, for example, the bank would take 1 trillion naira of people's monies, put in an investment portfolio that pays them 15%, 20%. Let's even use that 15%. That a bank has over 2 trillion, 3 trillion of people's monies in their account. Like, for example, GT. They take one of that and put in an instrument that pays them 15%. That bank has made 150 billion in 1 month, in 1 year. That is how they make monies. But, you know, the world is shifting. People are now getting to know that, see, why do I have to keep these monies I do when I can actually invest? And it's not just the money market fund. There are stocks, there are commercial papers, there are bankers' acceptances, there are treasury bills, there are a lot of things that you can put those monies to do. In fact, right now, if you do not even want to invest in stocks, let's say you don't have the idea on how to invest in stocks, we've now created a mutual fund, or people have created a mutual fund where you can put those monies in. And I don't have the expertise, but trade for me. And let me see what it comes up at every point in time. So the point I'm trying to make is that your monies do not have to be idle at any point in time. It does not have to be. It does not have to be. And this is very important, especially for men, because we work and there's a threshold or there's a limit for how far we can go in terms of how we hustle, how we work. We cannot be young all year round. But the point is that you can make decisions and steps today that positions you for financial independence in the future, based off on what you even make right now. If you work today and you save 50,000 naira every month for the next 10 years, like you work, I know that it's difficult, but because for investment, I always tell people that the hardest thing to do for investment is your consistency to it. That I want to build this future. What do I have to do today to secure the future that I need tomorrow? You can save 50,000 naira every month, and the next 10 years, you have at least 10 to 15 million naira. Now, look at the numbers. 50,000 naira on a monthly basis is around 600,000 naira yearly. For 10 years, when you look at that, that's around 6 million naira. But the factor of compounding, the factor of reinvestment, the factor that you're putting that money in an investment, that 6 million naira can give you 10 to 15 million naira within that space. And that's why I would always tell people, I say, see, when you have a baby, when you have a commitment, when you have something that you're doing, you can always at every point in time plan for it. I'm expecting a baby, for example. I can decide and tell myself that I'm saving 20,000 naira every month or 30,000 naira every month for the next 9 months. That when the baby comes, I'm not pressured. I want to do something. And I'm just using a baby for example. It can happen in any aspect of anything that you want to do. You're not pressured that you want to do something. Why? Because you have already done your financial planning. And that's the most important thing that we have to look at. Financial planning is something that a lot of people do not understand. That at every point in time, no matter how small it is, no matter how little, you don't have to. And the mistake that a lot of people make is they want to have the monies first, then invest it. Not everybody will be Dangote. Not everybody will be $100. Even in the market itself, people do a lot of devious things that you wouldn't understand. For example, Dangote said that he wants to sell shares. He has not released the date he wants to sell the shares. But you know that he has sold shares to some other people. Quietly. Now, when you're coming into the market and you buy those shares, what they do is, those people who might have bought those shares at 50 naira. Dangote will come and tell you that these shares are initial public offering. I want the public to partake 70 naira. When all of us bring our monies to buy those shares, those people that have bought those shares at 50 naira, quality now, when you enter the market at 70 naira, guess what? They've made 20 naira gain. So for someone that invests 100 billion naira, because there are people like that, 100 billion naira, in less than 1 month, they made 120 billion off your monies, and then they will pull out their own money. Before you know, the share price will crash. That's where a lot of people do not understand where shares or how it works. Because you can buy a share and say, I bought this thing for how many years, it has not gone down, because you do not understand the way the system works.
Thank you very much. We'll postpone all the questions because we need to get to the next. We are going to bring back Rimam so that you can answer, ask all the questions and he will answer. But we need to move very quickly to the next speaker who is going to be online. Technical, are we ready? If you have questions, please write down. If we have time, you can still answer. But right now, we need to move to the next section. Thank you so very much. Please, an applause for... Okay, you see on the screen, not very clear, is Dr. Sonny Akpan. He's going to talk to us. He's going to talk to us. He's going to introduce himself. But the other part, he has distinguished himself in his career. I met this friend over 20 years ago, and we have been following up and he has been financial controller in most of these international companies. I think the last one international company was in Move International. Dr. Sonny Akpan, you are welcome. You are welcome. Please, your time starts now because it's an online time. It's going to be exactly 1 hour. We've already used 5 minutes. Out of his time. So that means by 12:35, the time will have been over. Please Dr. Sonny, your time starts now. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Start.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Dr. Sunday. Sunday. Dr. Akpan has a seasoned accountant and finance professional. Is a chartered finance administrator and a certified management and financial accountant. 30 years of professional experience, accounts, treasury operations, and corporate leadership across Africa, Middle East, and Europe. Pastorate and the leadership of this program. Today we will pass. Are we together? Thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for attentions as we gather to learn about building. We acknowledge and the grace to apply daily lives. Learning we will learn today. Glory That is the big question. What is financial capacity? Financial capacity is your ability to manage and utilize financial resources effectively to achieve your goals and objectives. It is the ability to earn money, to manage money, to grow and sustain financial resources effectively. What are financial resources? Simply put, financial resources is your money and other assets. Other assets like cash, salary, wages, business income, savings, investment, property. These are your financial resources. Now, the big question is, what is the problem? Why are we not able to build financial capacity? If I ask us now, why have we not been able to build financial capacity? A lot of us will say, because you don't have money. But to be honest with us, most of us, our problem is not money at all. Everybody has different financial problems. We have income problem, we have expenses problem, we have investment problem, we have savings problem, and we have management problem. Now, if you have expenses that are more than your income, then you have income problem. It means you don't have enough earnings to be able to meet up your expenses. Now, if you have rising costs, maybe you are owing someone and then you don't even know how to control your expenses, then you have expense problems. At that point, your income is less than your expenses. For those who have not started savings money and do not even have any savings, they have savings problem. Not because they cannot save, but because they do not have the need or the understanding to do so. If you have idle funds in your account and you don't invest it, then you have investment problem. Most times you are scared of risk or you really don't know how it works, then you have investment problem. But most importantly, we all have management problem. When you look at Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28, and Genesis chapter 2, verses 4 to 5, it all talks about management. When the Bible says take control, dominate the earth, and all that, it is management. Man was primarily created for management. And what do I mean by that? It is stewardship. Stewardship is when you are entrusted with something that belongs to another for you to properly take care of it. Are we together? When you are entrusted with resources that do not belong to us, and we are assigned the responsibility to take care of that resources, that is stewardship. A steward is expected to give account of his management. But that is where a lot of us are missing it. In Luke chapter 16, verse 10, the Bible says, whoever can be trusted with very little thing can also be trusted with much. So the question is, that little money you have few months ago, few years ago, how did you manage it? How did you manage that money? So money is not our problem. Management is making prudent financial decisions. That is where a lot of us are missing it. And we do not have financial goals. A lot of us do not have financial goals. Money without a mission is a mistake. If you have money and you don't have an assignment for that money, you are making a big mistake. So you need to have financial goals. Now, financial goals simply are the monetary target you strive to achieve. They are what you plan to achieve in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, in a year, in 5 years, or even 10 years. They are the specific target you set for managing your money. It defines what you want to achieve financially within a certain time frame. Now, what are the examples of financial goals? Saving money to buy a house, saving money to pay off debt, building emergency fund for tomorrow, for rainy day. These are financial goals. A lot of us don't have financial goals, and that is why we are not able to build financial capacity. So you need to stay focused on your priorities. These are purposes of financial goals. You need to track your progress and measure your success. You need to make informed spending choices, because when you have a goal will guide you, will direct you on how you can achieve these goals. You will not just be spending money because you have money to spend. You will spend money because you have something at the back of your mind. Okay? So we set goals for emergency funds, we pay off debt, we plan for retirement. That is very important. So now I ask us, do you have a retirement plan? We don't. Most of us do not have a retirement plan. And that is a major reason why we are having issues, lack of planning. You see, for instance, a young man who is working, earns salary every month. After 1 year, looks for a way to borrow money to pay rent. Lack of planning. You see a man who is married, the wife is pregnant. After 9 months, he looks for money for the wife to pay hospital bill. That is lack of planning. But if you have a plan, you will be able to achieve that, because every month you will set aside money to be able to achieve these things. Are you guys with me? You cannot successfully navigate the journey of life without a plan. So the question is, do you have a plan? Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5, the Bible says, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. So you need to have a plan. The truth is, God will give you vision, God will give you ideas, but it is you who have to make the plan, because God cannot plan for you. You can read Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 1. Now, Bill Kaufman said this. He said, the trouble without having a goal is that you can spend your life running up and down the field and never score. So every plan must be SMART. SMART. S is specific, M is measurable, A is attainable, R is relevant, and T is time bound. So you must have a plan that is specific. I want to buy a car next year. That is specific. I want to buy a car valued at 12 billion next year. That is measurable. I want to buy a car valued at 12 million, which is within your salary. If you can save over 12 months, that is attainable. I want to buy a car. Is it relevant to you? I want to buy a car in 12 months. It has a time band. It can be traceable. Praise the Lord. So, what is building financial capacity? Building financial capacity is the process of developing the skills, knowledge, and resources to, one, manage finances effectively, slide now. You see the slide now? You see the slide? Hello, are you? All right. Manage to capacity. Need to do with how you act. How you money has to change. You need to look at see when trusted to us for service, not for selfishness. And mentality. To have for things you know this, you We know social controls the realm. How communication, you need educate. Three financial enemies every Christian must defeat. That to be able, you need able the enemy within. You are enemy. Most times you say you are important. When you don't start and wealth of cannot and commission, and all. That man gets enhanced income. Beginning that a lot of us have number 3 is for you to start a business. A bank of the second income enhancement strategy. No, this is create build plan even for your loved one's future. Praise the Lord. So a budget to monitor and record expenses to identify areas of reduction. A lot of us do not even know how much we spend our money. But when you are able to monitor your expenses, it will help you know how you spend your money. Expenses are the costs incurred in